In the season when the land refused to give, hunger entered the village like an unwelcome spirit. Every night, a mother lay awake on the bare floor of her hut, listening to two children breathe, each breath weaker than the last. She had scratched the forest, she had begged the neighbors, she had even eaten nothing so her children could eat something. But that night, there was only enough to help one child survive till morning. As the moon crossed the sky, the mother held them both and cried, because love could not multiply food. When dawn came, the village woke up, but one child did not. The drought did not arrive with noise. It came quietly, like a stubborn visitor who refused to leave. At first, the elders said, "It will pass." After all, dry seasons had come before. The land had always listened when people spoke to it. But this one was different. The sun rose every morning like an enemy, hanging too close to the earth, burning without mercy. The soil cracked open wide and ugly, like it was tired of pretending it could still grow food. Farms that once stood proud with cassava and maize now looked like forgotten burial grounds. Dry stalks standing stiff, ashamed of themselves. Even the wind had changed. It no longer carried the smell of fresh leaves or wet earth. It carried dust and disappointment. In the village, hunger began to show itself slowly. First, people stopped sharing meals. Then, pots stayed longer on the fire, even when there was nothing inside, just water pretending to be soup. Even children who once ran barefoot, laughing and chasing chickens, now sat quietly under trees, too tired to play, counting flies instead of dreams. It was in this village, this tired, thirsty village, that Uju lived. Uju was not always like this. Once, she had laughter that filled her compound. Once, her hut smelled of palm oil and pepper. And once, she had a husband. His name was Obinna. Obinna was not rich, but he was strong. The kind of man who would return from the farm with sweat on his face and still lift his children high into the air like they weighed nothing. And when hunger knocked in those days, Obinna answered it with work. When problems came, he faced them standing. Then, one rainy season, Obinna went to help clear another man's farm. He never returned. Some said it was a sickness that came suddenly. Others said he collapsed under the sun. All Uju knew was that by sunset, her ward had ended. He was buried before the week finished. Just like that, Uju became a widow, with two children clinging to her wrapper. The first child, Chinonso, was old enough to understand loss. He stopped asking questions after his father's burial. He simply grew quiet, watching his mother with eyes too old for his small face. The second, Ifunanya, was still small, too small to understand death. She only knew that the man who used to lift her onto his shoulders had disappeared. She cried for him at night, calling his name until sleep finally took her. Uju had no parents to run to, no brothers willing to help. Her husband's people helped for a short while, then life pulled them back to their own struggles. Soon, Uju was alone. She tried. She really tried. She went to the farm every morning, tying her children to her back one after the other, talking to the soil like it could hear her. "Please, she would whisper, pressing cassava cuttings into the ground. Even if you won't give much, just give me something for my children to eat. But the land did not answer. Weeks passed, then months, nothing grew. At home, Uju learned new tricks of survival. She boiled water and added salt, calling it soup, telling her children, eat fast before it gets cold. Sometimes, Chinonso would look into the pot and ask, Mama, where is the fish? Uju would laugh, one of those laughs that sounds happy but carries pain inside. Ha! Fish had traveled to another village. Oh. It will come back soon, my son. And the children laughed too, because laughter was easier than hunger. But as the drought deepened, laughter became harder. Uju started skipping meals, telling the children she had already eaten at a neighbor's house. In truth, she often went to bed with nothing but water warming her stomach and tears warming her eyes. At night, when the children slept, Uju stared at the roof of her hut, listening to their breathings. Every breath mattered now. And hunger was no longer just outside in the fields. It had entered her home, quietly, stubbornly, and it was not done with her yet. Morning came to the village whether people were ready or not. The sun did not ask if there was food in the houses before rising. It simply showed up, bright, hot and shameless. Uju woke up before it, not because she wanted to, but because hunger had trained her body. When the stomach is empty, sleep becomes light and restless. She lay on her mat for a moment, listening to the slow breathing of her children, and whispered a prayer she had been repeating every day. Let today be better than yesterday. She tied her wrapper firmly around her waist, rubbed her eyes, and stepped outside. The village was already awake, but not alive. Women moved slowly, carrying empty baskets like people going to greet disappointment. Men sat under trees longer than usual, talking less, thinking more. Even the goats looked confused, chewing nothing with great seriousness. Uju picked up her basket and started walking towards the bush. Foraging had become her new farming. She searched for leaves her mother once pointed out when she was younger. The ones you only notice when hunger forces your eyes open. She bent low, pushing aside dry branches, pulling out roots that looked like food if you were desperate enough. Sometimes she found something, sometimes she didn't. On good days, she smiled to herself and said, "Okay, today will not kill us." On bad days, she talked to the bush like it was a stubborn child. "So, you two have joined them to suffer me." The bush never answered. By midday, the sun sat heavily on her head. Sweat ran down her back, and her legs felt like they were carrying someone else's body. Still, she pushed on, because there was no one to tap her shoulder and say, "Uju, rest, I will take over." When she returned home, Chinonso and Ifunanya rushed towards her. "Mama, Mama, what do you bring? Mama, is it plenty?" Their eyes went straight to the basket. Uju only smiled quickly, quick enough to hide the truth. "Plenty is coming," she said. "This one is just to greet us." She washed the leaves carefully, cutting them smaller than necessary so they would look like more. She boiled them for a long time, adding water and hope in equal measure. When the food was ready, she shared it carefully. A little for Chinonso, a little for Ifunanya. Then, she pushed the pot away. Eat well, she said. I'm not hungry. At first, the children believed her. Then, Chinonso started watching. Mama, he asked one day, why are you always not hungry? Uju laughed. Is it by force to be hungry every day? She said, waving her hand. Maybe my stomach is on strike. The boy laughed, but the laughter did not reach his eyes. As this passed, Uju's wrapper became loose around her waist. Her cheeks sank inward, her steps slowed. Sometimes, she sat down suddenly, breathing hard, pretending she was only resting. At night, when she thought the children were asleep, she pressed her hand against her stomach, trying to silence it. Sometimes hunger won. She cried quietly then, crying the kind of tears that do not make sound, because even crying takes strength. One evening, Ifunanya pushed her portion of food towards her. Mama, eat this one. Uju's heart broke a little. No, my love, she said quickly. You need it to grow big and strong. But you are not growing, the child replied innocently. That night, Uju turned her face to the wall and cried until sleep carried her away. Each day, she grew weaker. But each day, she stood up again. Because hunger was fighting her. But she was fighting back. And she had not yet lost. That night did not come with thunder. It came like every other night. Dark, quiet and tired. Uju had known something was wrong since evening. The children did not ask for food. They did not complain. They only lay on the mat, too weak to argue with hunger anymore. That was when fear entered her chest. Chinonso tried to stand up once. She took 2 steps and sat back down heavily, like his legs had forgotten their work. Ifunanya followed her brother, slumping beside him, her small head resting on his shoulder. Lie down, Uju said quickly, forcing calm into her voice. You are only tired. But mothers know. She touched their foreheads. Cold. Too cold for children who had been running around not long ago. Her hands began to shake. She rushed to the corner where she kept her last hope, a small calabash covered carefully with clothes. Inside was a little food she had been saving, stretching day after day, telling herself this is for emergency. Now, the emergency had arrived. She opened it. What stared back at her was not enough, not for 2. Her heart started beating loudly, like it was trying to escape her chest. She looked at Chinonso, she looked at Ifunanya, then both looked back at her with dull, tired eyes. Uju's mouth went dry. She did the fastest counting of her life, breaking portions in her head, calculating miracles that refused to appear. She added water, then added more water, hoping volume would replace substance. But it didn't. Her hands trembled as she prepared what little she could. She moved back and forth, like movement itself could fix the problem. Eat slowly, she told them, trying to smile. The food is hot. They ate weakly, too weakly. Minutes passed. Nothing changed. That was when Uju knew the truth she had been avoiding. She had one last thing left. A small portion of medicine she had begged from a neighbor days earlier, meant to strengthen the body, not cure hunger. It would help one child survive the night. One. She sat down hard on the floor. Her head dropped into her hands. No, she whispered, shaking her head like the night might hear her and take pity. She looked at her children again. Chinonso, the elder one, still trying to be brave. Ifunanya, the smaller one, breathing fast, her chest rising and falling unevenly. Uju's chest tightened until breathing hot. Which hand do you say when both are yours? She crawled to them, pulling them close, wrapping both children in her arms, as if she could shield them from hunger with her body. Please, she whispered, not to them, not to anyone in particular. Please. The lamp flickered, the night stretched on. The hunger sat there with them, watching quietly, waiting. The night grew longer than it had any right to be. Uju did not sleep. Sleep had no place in that hut. She sat between her children, her back against the mud wall, her legs stretched out stiffly in front of her. The small lamp beside her flickered like it too was unsure whether it would survive till morning. Every few moments, she leaned forward to check their breathings. Chinonso's chest still rose and fell, slow but steady, like a drum that refused to stop beating. His eyes were half open, watching her, though he said nothing. If Nanya was different, her body felt light in Uju's arm, too light. Her breathing came in short, uneven pulls, like someone struggling to climb a hill in the dark. Her lips were dry, her small fingers twisted now and then, as if she was reaching for something she could not see. Uju swallowed hard. She reached for the little medicine and held it in her palm. It looked harmless, small, ordinary. But that night, it carried the weight of the world. She opened it and stared inside. It was not enough. Not enough for two children. Not enough to guarantee anything. Her heart began to pound painfully. She looked at Chinonso, then at Ifunanya. Tears filled her eyes immediately. No, she whispered. I cannot do this. She shook her head slowly. How can a mother count one child more than the other? She murmured, her voice breaking. Did I not carry you both? Her hands trembled as she divided the medicine carefully, painfully, like each drop was part of her own blood. She gave some to Chinonso, she gave some to Ifunanya. Not enough to be sure, but enough to hope. Take it slowly, she whispered, her voice shaking. Mama is here. Chinonso swallowed with effort, then nodded weakly. Ifunanya struggled more, her small throat working hard, but she swallowed too. Uju pulled them both into her arms, holding them close, rocking gently from side to side. I am here, she whispered again and again. Your mother is here. The lamp flickered, the night stretched on. Uju stayed awake, listening to every breath, counting each rise and fall of their chests, afraid to blink in case the moment changed, while her eyes were closed. Outside, the darkness remained stubborn. Inside the hut, hope sat quietly, thin and fragile. And hunger waited. Morning did not rush in. It arrived slowly, like it was unsure whether it was welcome. The darkness in the hut thinned little by little. The lamp had gone out hours earlier, leaving Uju to sit in the quiet, with nothing but breathing to listen to. She had not slept, not even for a moment. All the night, she sat there, holding both children, one on each side, her arms stiff, her body aching, afraid that if she shifted even slightly, something terrible would happen. Every few minutes, she leaned forward. She checked Chinonso's chest, up and down. She checked if Nanya's breathing, shallow and uneven. Uju whispered their names softly, like a prayer she was afraid to say too loudly. Chinonso, if Nanya. Sometimes one of them stayed, sometimes they didn't. The night did not drag its feet. Her eyes burned, her back ached. Her arms felt numb. Still, she did not let go. Because letting go felt like giving up. Outside, the first crow crowed. Uju's heart jumped. Morning, finally. She tightened her hold on both children and waited. As the light crept through the small opening in the wall, Uju noticed something was wrong. If Nanya was too still. Uju shifted slightly, panic rising in her chest. She touched the child's cheek. Cold. Too cold. No, she whispered quickly. No, no. She pressed her ear to Ifnanya's chest. Nothing. Her hands began to shake violently. She rubbed the child's arm, her back, her chest, as if warmth could be begged back into a body that had already gone quiet. Wake up, she whispered, her voice breaking. Wake up, my child. It is morning. But morning did not listen. Chinonso stared beside her and opened his eyes. Mama, he asked softly. Uju did not answer. She pulled Ifnanya closer, rocking her gently, tears streaming freely now, soaking into the child's thin clothes. I am here, she whispered over and over. Mama is here. But this time, the words had no power. When the sun finally rose fully, it shone on a heart that had lost its laughter. Uju sat there, still holding both children, one breathing, one silent. Not because she chose this, not because she wanted it, but because hunger is cruel and sometimes love is not enough. The village noticed before anyone said a word. Uju's compound was too quiet. Smoke did not rise from her hut that morning. No sound of sweeping, no child's voice calling out. Even hunger usually made noise, but this silence was different. A neighbor passed by and slowed her steps. She looked, then she stopped. By midday, the village knew. Women gathered first, their wrappers tied tighter than usual. They did not come running, they came walking, slowly, carefully, like people approaching something sacred. Inside the hut, Uju sat on the floor. She had not moved. If Nanya lay wrapped in clothes beside her, peaceful now, as if sleep had finally been kind. Chinonso sat quietly close to his mother, his small hand holding onto her wrapper, like it was the only thing keeping him from falling apart. No one shouted, no one asked questions. There was nothing to ask. One woman knelt and touched Uju's shoulder. Another wiped tears from her own eyes. This land had been hard. Someone murmured. And that was all. They buried Ifnaya before the sun grew too hot. There was no drums, no long speeches. Just hands digging into the dry earth and hearts heavy with knowing. Afterward, the village returned to its struggle. Hunger does not pause for morning, but Uju's word did. She stopped speaking much after that day. When she did, her voice sounded far away, like it had traveled a long distance to reach her mouth. At night, she still woke up suddenly, reaching out for a child who was no longer there. She blamed herself quietly. If I had found more food, if I had begged harder, if I had been stronger. Chinonso survived, but Uju carried two children in her heart. One who breathed and one who didn't. The village did not blame her. They knew hunger, they knew loss. They knew that sometimes love does everything it can and still loses. And Uju lived on not because she was strong, but because she had no other choice. The land did not heal quickly. it took time. Seasons passed, and the drought loosened its grip slowly, like a stubborn spirit being forced to leave. One morning, dark clouds gathered without warning. Thunder rolled, unsure of itself at first, then confident. Rain fell, not a teasing drizzle, not a short promise, real rain. It soaked the earth until the ground drank its fill. Cracks closed. Seeds that had been buried in disappointment began to push upward again. The village breathed. Farms turned green once more. Cassava leaves spread wide. Maize stood tall. Pots returned to the fire with confidence. In Uju's compound, smoke rose again. A year later, her cooking pot was no longer empty. Soup bubbled freely. Pepper returned to its rightful place. Chinonso laughed again, older now, taller, his voice stronger. Uju watched him from the doorway, smiling softly. They ate well now, not richly, but enough. Enough to be graceful, enough to breathe. Sometimes, while stirring soup, Uju would pause. Her eyes would drift to the corner of the hut where Ifunanya used to sleep. The smile would fade slightly, not into sorrow, but into remembrance. She never forgot. She spoke her name quietly sometimes, especially when food was plenty. Eat well wherever you are now, my daughter, she would whisper. And life continued. Joy returned. But the wound remained gentle and closed. Not bleeding, not gone, just there. Hi besties! We have finally come to the end of today's tale. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed making it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and see you in our next tale. Bye!